Hey guys, just want to get on here and show y'all what I've discovered on Ancestry, building my tree. Um, since it's Black History Month, we're going to go with all the African descent people I've so far have found. Still a lot more to go through, but I'm going to start off with my paternal side. My paternal grandmother's side, here is Scott Henry Devereaux. He ended up in Georgia. So records are saying that his father was a man captured from Guinea-Bissau in West Africa. It was part of the Balanta tribe, which I thought was pretty cool. And I don't know if this picture is. I think this is a picture of him. I believe so. There's actually like a whole description about the plantation they were on, the Devereaux / Bradley. There was another name too, Freeney, I think. Those were all like part of the same like plantation. There was a lot of them, I assume. I'm a descendant of Devereaux and Bradley. Those names are both on my list, and it's kind of interesting. But yeah, here we have Tabby July. She was Yoruba from Nigeria. I think this picture is of her. It was the wife of Scott Devereaux. Born in 1787. Ended up in the Georgia area, Georgia, Alabama. That's where I think the Bradleys, most of them end up in Alabama, and that's the ones where my grandma, my paternal grandmother, lineage is connected through. And that is quite interesting, actually. Yes, so this is where they have here a written, kind of like a monument of all the slaves' families that were in this area. So Monteverdi, and here it talks about the Devereaux, how many people they own. It says their written family's history begins with Scott and Tabby, born in 1792, 1787 respectively, the eldest of John William Devereaux's group of slaves who were taking their children and grandchildren from Georgia to Alabama to Texas. Documented African American families at Monteverdi in 1846 included Scott and Tabby, their son Anderson, his wife unnamed. A lot of names out there. And then they founded the Anadarko Christian Church School in 1868. Julian Devereaux's 1856 probate records name 80 slaves on the estate. After obtaining their freedom in 1865, these resilient men and women paved the way for better lives and for themselves and future generations. Some families stayed in the area, continuing to work and live in villages and communities which comprise the former lands in the Monteverdi. As documented in the 1860s to 1900 census and other records, descendants of the 80 Monteverdi slaves rarely adopted this surname Devereaux, but instead names including Anderson, Bagley, Blanton, Booker, Bowens, Bradley, Julian's first wife's family, and I'm part of the Bradley clan. Brantley, Caudell, Carey, Cooper, Freeney, Henry Lewis, Loftus, McDaniel, Owens, Spencer, Stearns, Tips, Williams, and others. So those are the names. If you're have any of these in your surnames in your tree, you might connect to these group of slave families. Something interesting to take a look at if you're interested in finding out more. Probably start with this and keep looking and searching. But yeah. All right, on to the Louisiana Creole side of my dad's side is an ancestor named Manette. Manette information is right here. Actually, they have actual documents with like the selling inventory, which is quite insane. How much he sold for, how many children, and how many of them were sold with her, which is really crazy to think about. But yes, this was also originally in French. The document was originally in French. It seems like yeah, they ended up in Louisiana. She was from I forget. It did say in a different place where it was from. Give me 1 second. So Manette was born in 1787. She ended up in Louisiana. Her children, the surnames were Augustine. So if you descend from the Augustines, you might descend from her. That's one of the names that pop up on my tree from in my DNA matches. I've matched with a lot of Augustines from Louisiana. But yeah, this was actually very surprising to find. Actually, it was the selling price and all that was really like quite disturbing, but I got to see all that information thanks to Louisiana documents, which were different from like colonial English, so it's kind of harder to like find those documents versus the French Louisiana Creole ones, which is kind of, I don't know why that's different, but yeah. Next we have Leonard Bourdillon. He's a Congo native slave, so he's from the Congo. He was born in 1710. It says he had children with a Patucus Indian slave. Now, I never heard of that Native American tribe, which is probably one of the extinct ones. But yeah, if you are probably from Louisiana, you probably may end up coming across these last names like Bourdillon, Francois, and a lot of French names. But he appears also on my paternal side as well. Next is Jacob. Born in 1790 or 1787. They don't really know, but according to records, he was from Nigeria. He ended up in Louisiana, and a lot of his descendants down the line, the Jacobs, were ended up in that area. This one, I haven't found much of like written paper, but they do have like slave schedules. So which was like kind of like how they categorize the slaves by gender, from what I've could read. But it was really like kind of hard to find this side. But yeah, that's also someone that's on my lineage, my ancestors. The Jacobs is on my paternal grandfather's side. So yeah, it has its race, its name, location where he ended up at, still price, common value. The original document was in French. It was like stuff. The document dispository was in New Orleans. So yeah, it was quite. It's quite like, I don't know. It's kind of like hard for like, you know, as African Americans to find these kind of like records, because, you know, it's like there was a lot of selling and people dispersed and kind of hard finding your family name. But once you are able to get in the right track of once you're building your tree to find like which names are which, and honestly, if you have like DNA matches where certain names pop up like repeatedly, those are probably who you're connected to. And try to trace it backwards, helping by you getting help from the other trees that are like already built. But yeah, on to my maternal side, my grandfather, we have Polly Cooper. It just says Africa. Don't know exactly which part, but I do know she ended up in South Carolina. Her descendants ended up there, the Coopers. This side is my maternal grandfather's side, yeah. So, this side is kind of harder to find. I found like the records of like where the boat arrived to South Carolina. Well, it arrived to Georgia, and then she departed from Georgia and into South Carolina. That's all I've got for records about this branch. But yeah, let's go to the next. On my maternal grandmother's side, we got the Allens. The Allens ended up in Alabama. On my maternal grandmother's side. Here's March Allen. He was from Cameroon. So that is more like in the central part of Africa, which is closer to like Gabon and the Congo. They're like all in that region. So this is kind of cool because with the DNA, I'm kind of split like half and half, with like my top numbers were like Nigerian, Togo, and then Cameroon. I think Nigerian was like 20 in the 20ish range. So was Cameroon, Congo, and then Togo was like 18 or 15, like between 15 and 18%. But yeah, so finding out who came from Cameroon was pretty cool, and they got pictures there. There's a lot of pictures of the Allens, and there's other Allens too. I don't know if they're all related to each other, but they all ended up in the same area, and they kept recycling these names. So I'm pretty sure they were kind of all related. I'll probably go over them one of these days. But yes, here's March Allen. And here we have Admiral Spears. He was from Accra, Ghana. So I gotta find out who came from Ghana. And the Spears is on my maternal grandmother's side. It is her Her father was a Spears. So it's like close generation. It's like late 1700s. Um, um, so Ghana, yes, definitely kind of cool knowing coming from Ghana. And then his wife, here she is, Legier Patsy. She was from Nigeria. Quite interesting name, actually. But yes, the Spears. There's no pictures. Barely any documents. I found a document of the slave owner, what he wrote to the will when he like had them like released to, or like when he died, like who he left it to. His name was Mason Spears. So Spears' name comes from the owner. Spears, so far I know, they ended up in Mississippi. That's where my Spear lineage is mostly, I found, was from Mississippi. So yeah, pretty cool. It's quite like kind of haunting, but like to know like finally, but like it was like was really fulfilling though is like you get the numbers and it's like your dismiss percentage of it. It looks like this part of like Africa, and it's like okay, well, putting a name and sometimes a face to like who they actually were, who you actually came like descend from. It's kind of like, I don't know. It makes you feel like not complete, but like kind of like oh, I wonder what the story was more. I finally get a picture. I finally got a name. They're not just like someone's DNA I'm just carrying, and I just don't know who they ever were. But it's like hard to find the records or any stories, or because they wasn't much they could write. But when if you do have a family lineage where they did write things down, I encourage to like keep hold of that. But yeah, so that's it for the. I think there's more actually. I'm just forgetting maybe, but I will probably post more later. But so far, yes. Here's all the ones I've found that have direct connections from Africa. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you soon.